I'll start kind of high level and then we'll get into some details. I guess one, just it feels this way to me, but does it feel to you that the pace of change in the search industry has kind of never been crazier? I think even going back to the early days of search when you had so many search engines, at least from an advertising perspective, I felt like 18 months ago, it was like, oh, every month something major happens. And then it was every 2 weeks something major happens. And now it feels like almost every day or every week something's happening.
Yes, but I agree. It's never been as chaotic, but it's also more chaotic because you have more platforms and more announcements. And it also impacts sentiment, right? AI, when search engines had algorithm changes, it mainly impacted businesses that were trying to rank on them. Okay.
Right.
Same with Facebook algorithm changes. People are trying to get the views. Now, when ChatGPT has announcements, it impacts the businesses, but it also impacts people. And when I say people, a lot of times when you see these guys talk about AGI and universal income and all this stuff, it's impacting people and creating anxiety and stress for a subset of the market. We didn't have those problems with the previous platform changes because now they're saying it's going to replace humans. At least that's their pitch. Some of them disagree with that. Some of them really push hard and agree with that. Time will tell.
Yeah, I do want to talk about that because I think just recently, and one of the things, again, compliment you, but one of the great things about what you're doing is you're always telling people about the newest thing. And I think your goal is, hey, get in as early as possible because when it's brand new, not that many people are doing it. So you'll see more traction and you'll learn more. So even when more people come in, you're already ahead of them. So like, again, if you're not subscribed to Neil's YouTube channel or anything, you should be. But in terms of one of the things you mentioned recently was get ready for an agentic world and the agent is doing the shopping and the human never visits your website. And I think you had some great advice on how to start thinking about handling that. I think if I'm a paid search account manager, I run my Google Ads account. I think, right? Do I have to worry about that right now? I think another piece of advice you gave is, hey, the paid search team used to be totally siloed from the organic team.
Yes.
You advise, hey, at least come together. I'm just curious with your own agency, kind of how are you dealing with these things, the pace of change, the new things that come out, the fact that maybe paid and organic are starting to merge together?
Yeah. So with paid and organic merging together, that's the easiest one to handle first. That's simple because we control the company, we control culture, we control what we want people to do. We remove barriers and we have the teams work together, whether they like it or not. And luckily for us, they do like it. It makes them more efficient and it makes them both divisions perform better. When it comes to the amount of change, we hire people who embrace the change and love to experiment, and they shift and transfer that knowledge to the rest of the organization. It is too hard to have every person in your organization keep up. Some people have this model, if they're not up to speed on everything, I'm not going to hire them, they're not going to qualify. It's unrealistic if you're trying to really grow fast, it's unrealistic to hire everyone being up to date on everything related to AI and knowing how to use everything because it just changes too fast. The third thing is I try to emphasize to our customers and our employees and team members that something new doesn't mean it's always better or useful. When you're a larger organization, sometimes you have the luxury of waiting just a little bit extra time to see if something sticks. And the reason I say that is like people used to push me on Clubhouse and I would tell them, this is a waste of time. I signed up, used it a few times. I'm like, this is a waste of time. I'm like, you could only consume content when you're on there. If you're not on there, you can't just log in. That's how I knew Clubhouse was going to pretty much die. It was just a really inefficient way to consume content. I don't think AI is going to die. By all means, I do think it's here, and it's going to improve. But I do think they're exaggerating its current ability. I'm not saying its future ability, but I hear people talking about agents are here. You don't even need to make any more purchases. I don't know if you're in a relationship or married or have
Married,
kids.
married.
Okay, married. How long have you been married?
26 years.
Okay, 26 years. Does you have kids?
No kids.
Okay. So you've been married for 26 years. Do you know what your partner wants for dinner?
No.
Okay. And I was with a Google engineer. He's like, you've been married for a long time, right? I'm like, not that long, 6-7 years. He's like, okay. He's like, if your partner told you to go buy red heels, right? Would you know which red heels to buy? And I said, no. He's like, but you live with them. Yeah. You've known them for a long time. Yeah. You see their shoe closet, so you know exactly all the shoes they have. Yeah. But I'm like, I don't know, purse or red heels or watch or any of this. So he's like, and I'm like, I kind of have a directional sense of what they kind of like, but I don't know exactly. And he's just like, exactly. If you live with the person, you understand them, you know more about them than we do. If you struggle to identify the exact purchase,
Yep.
how do you expect an agent to go out there, purchase something, have it delivered, and they're going to like it? Now, an agent can help you go find the things and even transact on things they know you want. If you buy the same toilet paper every single month, it can help you with that.
Right.
But in reality, Amazon already has subscribe and save, right? You don't need an agent to help you buy toilet paper when there's already subscribe and save.
Right.
I do think there's a lot of value in agents. I think there's actually more value on the B2B end than the B2C end. And this is where I think then Anthropics and Googles and Microsofts will start dominating. And I actually think in the long run, it's going to be more Google and Microsoft, and we can get that more in the predictions. But, I think the agent stuff is more applicable and useful on the business side than the consumer side. I'm not saying an agent can't be someone's personal assistant and help them out throughout life, but I see way more value on the corporate end. And you can see that in the revenue numbers with Anthropic.
Yeah, we have something called Ask Arlo. So Thune is named after Athena, the goddess, Greek goddess. She had a sidekick owl. We have a sidekick owl. We named it Arlo. And it's a great use of AI. We collect massive amounts of data, everything that's going on Google search and now ChatGPT ads and ChatGPT, and it can kind of synthesize that in a way a human can't, and it's just remarkable to see how much better it's getting. We're about to release new Arlo, Agent Arlo, which I think will be a game changer for our clients just to get more out of the data that we have. But I think that goes across software companies, all sorts of companies. It's a good point. Well, let me go back to this change in your team. Let's go a little bit more into specifics. What are the top 1, 2, maybe 3 things that your team has to think about, has to worry about today that maybe they didn't have to worry about 6 months, 12 months ago when it comes to, let's start with Google. So when it comes to Google ads, obviously AI overview is making a big impact, but what are the things that are making them do their job differently today?
Yeah. I wouldn't say they have to worry too much more. It's more so they have more access to tools that help them do their job more efficiently and better. I think what's really happened, yes, you have AI overviews, you have ChatGPT ads, and the list goes on and on. So there's new areas that you have to focus on. But what we find is technology is making it easier, but it's also making it more competitive at the same time. So the humans have to focus more on strategy and thinking outside of the box more than they ever did before.
In terms of just staying on Google, right? They launched PMax, and it was kind of interesting. Our clients are some of the biggest brands in the world. And when PMax first came out, I actually know somebody at Google who told me, when we launched PMax like 2020, 2021, we thought it would be great for kind of the small advertiser, doesn't have an agency, makes them more efficient, but we really didn't think big advertisers would use it. And now, especially on the e-commerce side, right, some of the biggest brands in the world are using PMax. Now they're all trying AI Max.
And you have to use both. You can't just use AI Max without PMax.
Yeah. And so I think that's to your point of kind of using those tools. I'm just curious, right, when everybody uses them, right, it makes it a little bit harder to get that competitive edge. one of the things that Thune has historically done is we tell folks what their competitors are doing on Google search, because Google obviously is not going to share that information, and we're kind of the only way to kind of get your competitors' playbook. But increasingly, we're telling our clients what Google's doing in their own campaigns, because if you sign up for PMax, AI Max, Google's not been great. Now, maybe they'll get better, but not been great about telling you exactly when your ads are showing up and whatever.
But they're trying to become more transparent.
They're trying. Yeah, we had somebody who sold furniture, and they turned on PMax, and they said all of a sudden, they were selling lots of low-end furniture through the Google ads channel, but high-end furniture disappeared. And we're looking at the search results all the time. And we said, yeah, you're not selling any high-end furniture because PMax isn't deciding to show your ads when people search for that. It can't meet your ROAS target or whatever your targets are. So going back to the folks at your agency, are they all in on automation? And especially when it comes from Google, how often are you finding, we got to build another negative keyword list, or we got to pull this one out and do it more manually?
What we found is when you just let PMax and AI Max are great. When you let technology just run on its own, it doesn't always optimize your campaigns in the best possible way. What we found is humans aren't better than the technology. So, a counterexample is we find that when humans run campaigns without PMax and AI Max, they don't do as well. We find that when humans just let PMax and AI Max run on their own, they don't do as well. We find the winning combination is humans plus technology. We think this new world is shifting to HAI. You take AI, combine it with humans, right? And you got a winning combination.
Got it. All right. I want to, and I'm going to have to look at some notes because the data I have here is literally from last night. This podcast, we're sort of end of April, early May. Some of the things we're about to talk about, if you're watching this in September, probably over half of it is out of date. But I want to get your feedback as we think about ChatGPT ads. So, again, let me start with probably the most interesting thing. I think all these things are kind of interesting, but and again, what we're doing is we've got a long list of prompts. We're going to ChatGPT. We're just kind of seeing what happens. Yeah. And right now we don't really care about the answer so much. Obviously, we care a little bit when it comes to our clients or the competition or who's getting cited. That's really important. Who's getting mentioned. But we're really focused on the ads. And what we noticed, this is 500 ads we looked at. 60% of those ads showed up when the prompt had something about, best, give me the best this, give me the best
car, best toilet paper, best water, or whatever it may be.
And then another 31% ads showed up when somebody said, hey, compare X versus Y, right? So over 90% of the time you see an ad, at least today, on ChatGPT, it's because you're saying, hey, what's the best? Or let me compare a couple different things, which means, all the other kinds of queries is under 10%. Does that surprise you? Does it inform kind of how you think about, we should mention that NP Digital has clients in the ChatGPT ads trial. You're limited in what you can say about that, but
correct.
But some of our data, does that surprise you?
I can definitely talk about the data you're sharing. Based on what you're sharing, it is not surprising because if you think about how people use AI versus search, it is similar, but a little bit different. So in traditional search, you would type something in, doesn't matter what platform, you would go to 10 different blue links, read the websites, and then you'd figure out what you think is the best. And then you'd go back to the site you're ready to make the transaction on, eventually. With AI, people are doing their research in the platform. They're trying to understand. So when someone types in, I have neck pain, okay, or not neck, I have back pain every time I sleep. And I'm using a real example for myself. Every time I sleep, I wake up with back pain. But then, and it's typically my upper back. But then when I sleep in a hotel room, I have no back pain. Hotel rooms, I believe, tend to have more firmer mattresses. So I'm asking ChatGPT all these questions. And it's like, correct. Have you tried a pillow topper? I'm like, yes, I have a pillow topper. And they're like, it may be too plush. And I'm like, it is plush. So then it was recommending some of the things to change. I'd also recommend changing pillows because I broke down, depending on how I use what pillow, that's what it feels. So then you start eventually getting to what is the best pillow based on my needs. And when someone types in those kind of queries, they're ready to make a purchase. They've done all their research and diligence. Like they're just like, what is the best X that meets this Y requirement? And the reason I want to specify it that way, the way people are using ChatGPT is not they're typing in what's the best shoes. They're being much more granular and specific. If you look at anyone's personal use cases, they go really in-depth on usually a sentence or two, and then they describe it from there. But those queries convert so well, it doesn't shock me. And I bet you, if I had a guess, I don't have data off the top of my head from any of this, but if I had a guess, you're going to see all the best variations, because there's other similar types of keywords to best, like top or whatever it may be, cheapest, most affordable, most reliable, other variations. You're going to start all seeing them based on the data that you're sharing. If I had to make some guesses, you'll start seeing ads on all those types of queries because they convert extremely well.
Right, but it's interesting. I saw an interview with the head of ChatGPT ads, and he comes from Meta, and he wanted to position ChatGPT ads as it's not search. It's obviously it's not social.
It's a combo of both.
It's right. We're having a conversation. It's deeper. But at least today, and again, things could change a week from now, a month from now. At least today, it's feeling like the ads are showing up maybe more looking a lot like search, right? As you said, kind of you've done some research, whether you were on ChatGPT yesterday and now you're back, but you're kind of getting to that point where you're getting closer to the purchase.
I kind of agree. I agree majority 80+%.
Okay.
I disagree 20%, right? And but overall, I do agree. It is more a text-based platform like a Google is. So the ads are going to look like search. The only difference is it does a much better job at understanding your history and what you're looking for. Like ChatGPT has a lot of history on me, which could be scary at sometimes as well. Like there's companies now, I think like Venice.ai, which are now trying to do it where all your data is anonymized, which is kind of cool concept. But that's a side note. I have no affiliation to them. I just learned about them yesterday. But when you look at ChatGPT, if I ask it a question, it knows what I talked about 3 months ago and it can adjust. Kind of like social, where it knows what you like and your friends like, so it kind of can infer what to show you. I really do see it a combo of both, but the format looking more like search and the data being more like search. Because if I talked hypothetically about back problem 3 months ago, and within the last 3 months in between, I brought it up to ChatGPT maybe another 4 times, like fine-tuning, tweaking my back problems. And then today I go ask it about a marketing problem. It can, in theory, show me an ad about back problems because it knows that I'm interested in that. But the problem there is I'm not in that moment where I really care about back. I'm trying to solve another problem. So if they show me an ad for back, in theory, it's not going to convert as well. And the reason I say that is if you look at social ads compared to traditional search ads, I'm not discussing ChatGPT's data or my customers' data. Right. I'm just looking at just general marketing data. Google traffic converts better because it's more intent. Someone typing something and you're showing them a solution to that problem right then and there. If you look at like Instagram, it's more discovery type of ads. It just doesn't convert as well, but it also is a lot cheaper per impression.
Right. And to be clear, you're not, we'll talk about predictions, but you're not predicting that you'll get a back ad when you're, asking a marketing question, because that would be a total disappointment. Like ChatGPT.
It would be a very disappointment. Yeah. Even though they know this data, they would have to show me what I'm typing in right then and there, or else it doesn't logically make sense as a consumer. I'm going to get a terrible experience.
Right.
But where I say it's more like social. If it knows I'm typing in stuff related to backs, okay, so you ran how many queries? 1,000, 500?
Thousands of queries. We saw 500 ads.
Okay, you saw 500
prompts,
ads.
Thousands of prompts.
So again, let's just go based off your data, not what we're seeing.
Yep.
But if you look at that data right there, you're seeing most of the ads related to queries like best, right? Hypothetically, that would mean, kind of like Facebook, there's a lot of queries that have no ads.
Yes.
So that means if you have back problems or I have back problems, I'm typing in other stuff, and they know I've been typing in back stuff the same day. As a business, and I can't tell you what they're thinking or not thinking, that's up to them. Just like Facebook, why wouldn't they want to show you ads related to back when no one's bidding and they can fill it in, even if it's for pennies on the dollar? That's where I believe it's going to be more like social, because you have a ton of inventory that's hard to monetize.
That's interesting. It's hard to not predict things as we're having this conversation. I'd be surprised, because I think one of the other things we've heard out there is that clicks on ChatGPT ads much lower percentage than, and we've actually done this data ourselves. I think kind of 6 times higher click-through rate on Google ads than there are in ChatGPT ads. But we've seen data that the ChatGPT clicks convert at a better rate. So your cost per acquisition might be better. So I think the minute.
Do you have data on how much better or worse it's converting?
Again, the conversion data is not ours. We've heard it's kind of material. But I think literally the minute you start showing back ads when you're asking ChatGPT a marketing question, I think, again, you'd wonder, why would somebody click if you're not in the mode of thinking about your back? But I would argue that that's going to be a lower conversion, that you're going to get a click, but it's not going to do as well.
And a lower cost. Just like
but at a lower cost.
Facebook,
it's fair.
Right?
It's fair.
It's all about the numbers.
Yeah.
On Facebook, people show you ads for a lot of random stuff that you've no interest in, but if it's cheap enough and they can make it profitable, they do it, because there's a lot of inventory that all these platforms have that is hard to monetize. So they start throwing in just a lot of ads. Same with Gmail. Like, you see ads for a lot of stuff in Gmail. How often are people really clicking? But you know what? If you can add up to extra few $1 billion extra a year in revenue, or 3-4 billion, it adds up. $1 here, $2 billion there. That's how Google ends up making over $100 billion in profit a year.
And your point is right. The volumes are insane. So
the volumes are insane.
How do you monetize the long tail of volume? Speaking of that, so one of the things we noticed with these ads is brand hijacking is maybe too harsh of a term, but brand hijacking is already happening with ChatGPT ads, and maybe they'll figure this out. But right now, if you say, hey, ChatGPT, tell me, compare X versus Y.
Yes.
A lot of times you're getting an ad for Z. Right. So again, the promise of LLMs and ads inside LLMs is that it will be very relevant. You've narrowed it down to 2 pillows, right? You've already thought about sort of all the other stuff, and now you're getting an ad for a 3rd pillow, somebody maybe you've discarded, yesterday or earlier. Talk about kind of how you feel about that. Is, I guess, not surprising, but.
So my take's probably going to be different than the end consumer.
Yeah.
And it's because of experience. We see a lot of data. And again, I'm not trying to talk specific about ads, but just data from ChatGPT, especially on the organic end. And it's not perfect. If it gives you a recommendation for 2 products, or someone's asking about 2 products because they were first asking ChatGPT questions about pillows, and it helped them narrow down to 2, and then they're asking which one's better, sometimes ChatGPT misses things. So maybe Z is better. And a perfect example of this is my wife is newer to using ChatGPT and doesn't use it as much as me, but she loves it. Or she used to love it much more than she does now. Still a great product. She still uses it heavily, but not as much. She doesn't take its word as gospel anymore. And the reason being is I travel a lot. We have we have team members, and I think offices in 28. I know we're in 28 countries. I don't know if we have offices in all 28, but some countries we have more than one. So my wife's, we were during the Easter break, which passed recently. And my wife asked me really politely, hey, are you going to spend more time with the kids? This is on a weekday that she was asking me. We're doing a family trip to Carmel, which is in Northern California. And I was working majority of the time. And my wife has no issues. I had my business before we were married. She knew what she was signing up to. But when the kids start complaining like, Daddy, we want you. Do you love me? You always work more. And they don't understand the concept that I have to work because things cost money. And I also do love work. But my wife made a really good point. Like, hey, if you can just take one day with no phone calls, it could be a Saturday, it would be great. She wasn't upset. It was very polite. My wife's really chill and easygoing. So my wife connects with my assistant, and tries to figure out, or not really my assistant, but someone on my team, and tries to figure out when I'm busy and not busy. So she picked a Disney cruise to book, okay? And it's leaving from Vancouver. We'll go, I think sometime in June, I believe is the date. I don't know exactly when. So we're going to go on this Disney cruise. It doesn't have the best Wi-Fi. My wife knows that I have nothing important during that 7 days, so I can actually spend the time with the family. But there's enough Wi-Fi where I can maintain my work, so I'm not like too behind.
Right.
And she starts inviting some friends to join along who are more north, and they can just hop on really easily. And when she brings us up to a few friends, they're like, why don't you book a month later? June is not the best time to go. People tend not to go on these cruises. She's like, what? ChatGPT said it was the best time. And when she confronted ChatGPT, they're like, oh, well, if you go during the time I recommend, you can still see a little bit of snow on top of the mountains, which makes it more beautiful. But then you can't do much outdoors. And my wife's like, crap. And they're like, well, we're telling you it's the best for this one reason. That's not practical when she's asking what to do for her family when you have kids and they like swimming and being outdoors. And she's giving ChatGPT all this information, and it gave a solution that was great, but it picked the wrong month. My wife didn't say it has to be in June. She was telling him I have 3 months, and she gave him the 3 months. It selected one of the worst months to do it in. Right? And this is why I believe the Z could be a really viable option, because it is not perfect. And I don't think it'll ever be perfect because it pulls from the internet, and there's a lot of bad information on the internet.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think in conversations with some of the big brands that we work with, maybe going back to AI overviews, we've gotten some folks who are concerned, like, hey, if the AI overview says, it's promoting a different brand, or it looks like, somebody does X versus Y or best of, and the AI overview gives an answer, and our client's brand is not in there. They're like, do I want my ad there? And again, as of today,
let's go with the Google AI overviews example. Yeah. We see it working. Even if they're not mentioning you, being in there drives more revenue than not being in there. And in most cases, you can make it profitable.
You want to be in there, is your conclusion.
Hands down. From all the data I looked at, if you want to talk about Google specifically, it makes you money to be in there. If you think otherwise, fire whoever's doing it and hire someone who's more capable. I'm not trying to be rude, but
right.
I have tons of Google data, and I can talk about that freely. I'm not restricted by a contract. That works. That people should do.
Got it. Maybe go back just briefly. Some of the data we track millions and millions of search terms on Google, and we've actually, we'll talk about free tools. We've got a free tool where you can see across the entire universe of the terms we track, which admittedly are commercial, right? We're not doing informational kind of queries. As of literally yesterday, I think we're at 14% of the time you'll see an AI overview. And 0.15% of the time that you see an AI overview, you'll get an ad. So ads inside of AI overviews still very, very low percentage. And it's been sort of hovering in that kind of 0.1, 0.12, 0.15 range for a few months now. But yeah, I think in terms of the things that your team kind of worries about, and I think that's interesting that you're so definitive on it. Like, if the AI overview is there, the other kind of really cool data we have is that and this is not surprising, but if there's an AI overview above your ads, your clicks are going to go down and your CPCs are going to go up.
Yes.
So recommendation, and while I said 14%, if you're in healthcare, it's over 50%.
Yes.
If you're in automotive, it's under 10%. So it
ranges by category.
Averages are
and
tough.
And healthcare is harder to place an ad in there for a lot of the queries because they're more informational.
Right, exactly. So, but again, remember our queries are somewhat commercial.
Yes.
But yeah, what's the advice? What's the thing that your team will do if they go, shoot, here's a search term or a set of search terms that we really counted on, and now shoot, there's an AI overview showing up above our ads all the time.
We get our ads included in the AI overviews.
Yeah.
It works.
So do whatever it takes. Yeah.
Google's giving you the tool.
And I think this goes back to your point about the organic team meeting with the paid team, which is, hey, maybe double down on the organic side to make sure it is citing you.
But on the flip side, when there's no AR reviews and your brand ranks organically on the top few spots and above the fold, and there's not really any other competition, our paid team wouldn't run ads for what you already control organically when there's no other company bidding on your term, right?
Yep.
Because at that point, you're just wasting money. Now, when a company starts bidding, we automatically start bidding right then and there, that millisecond. So then that way, we're showing up. The moment they stop bidding, that second, we stop bidding as well, because organically we already control. So why pay for traffic you're already going to get?
Right. All right. Let me go back to anything else on that?
No, but it works. Like, the real problem is people debate, should I do this? Should I not? Who cares? Just try it out. Run an experiment. If it's making you money, great. If it's not making you money, keep iterating. And if you can make it profitable, double down on it. If you can't, don't. But if all these people are running ads, they're usually running ads because they're making money.
Right.
I understand a lot of people have ads that aren't profitable, but companies that are scaling up their ads typically are making profit when they look at the LTV of a customer. And I want to really emphasize the LTV. A lot of organizations aren't making their money back in 30 days.
Right.
There's a much longer payback period.
And you've got a great video about expanding your horizons when it comes to payback period. Probably many videos. All right, this is interested if you have a reaction. You might not have a reaction. If we shift back to ChatGPT ads, right? So when ChatGPT launched the ads, or when OpenAI launched, they wanted, hey, trust is the most important thing to us. We're not going to show any ads if it's health related, if it's finance related. If we think you're under 18, we're not going to show you ads. We're only going to show ads to logged in users. Two cracks have already, again, we're 2.5, 3 months into the ChatGPT ads trial. Of the 500 ads we saw, a bunch were finance. Now, I think OpenAI's official policy is, hey, we're not going to show finance ads if it's like selling you finance products. But if you want advice, we saw ads for SoFi. We've seen ads for people who are insurance, selling kind of financial products. Number one. Number two, as of just, again, a few days ago, they're showing ads to non-logged in users. So maybe this goes back to the point you were making before, which is you've got all this inventory.
And all these costs.
You
got to figure out how to pay your bills.
So it was like I said, maybe more. So you're not surprising.
I'm not surprised.
Not surprised, and only probably more of the same as we go forward. Cool. I think this is interesting, and maybe this harks back to earlier days in search, is what I'll call publisher affiliates, right? The Wall Street Journal buy or Forbes. They are, again, relatively small sample size. This could change in the months ahead. But at the moment, we're seeing them show up, their ads show up much more than kind of individual brands. And when we do see brands like a Best Buy or something like that, it's the biggest. It's really the big brands. And then of the 500 ads, I think the top 10, I've got the stat if I can find it, but I think the top 10 were representing the, maybe not a majority of the ads, but a big chunk of them. And then there was a very long tail and a bunch of companies where they only had one ad out of the 500. So that, one, maybe talk to what you think's going on with respect to kind of affiliate publishers. And then two, is it going to look the same? I saw the head of ChatGPT ads when he talked about it. He used an example of somebody who sells vegan ramen. And isn't it going to be great that somebody who sells vegan ramen, who's always struggled to find the right audience, well, ChatGPT, there's going to be lots of people asking about that, and they'll show the ad at the right time. But your thoughts?
The affiliate people need to figure out how to make money. It is a big business, from the bank rates to the Forbes to all these players. They make a lot of money from those pages that list out the best. NerdWallet, the list goes on and on. And why wouldn't they buy ads to drive more ROI? They have been for ages. It's been profitable and it works. NerdWallet's publicly traded. I don't have their current financials, but I'm assuming at some point, some of their campaigns are profitable, if not majority of them. And why wouldn't they just keep doing them, and I don't see this as a shocker. You also have to realize that the marketing teams at like the Nerd Wallets of the world or these affiliates are probably more, I wouldn't say cutting edge. I would say they're more entrepreneurial. Well, they'll try things. They tend to be quicker to try things. Yeah. And they also have, these organizations tend to have less bureaucracies than the Best Buys of the world because they're much more nimble. So not only are they more entrepreneurial, so they're open to more risk and trying things, but they're also have less bureaucracy, so it makes it easier for them to execute, which is why I think you're seeing more of those players.
And do you think as ChatGPT evolves, again, a bit of a prediction, but you think that continues, or you think ChatGPT tries to, no, I guess your point would be they need to fill the inventory. So if that fills the inventory, and if it's not really a bidding contest yet, although we'll talk about that in the predictions, yeah, I guess they'll sell it if they think it's somewhat relevant and they're willing to get
business.
Yeah.
This isn't related to ChatGPT ads, but any platform who may have ads. If you have people willing to buy and you need money and the ads are relevant enough and it doesn't make you look bad, why wouldn't you fill it? It doesn't matter if you're Snap, Facebook, ChatGPT, or whoever, because you got to figure out how to make money. Right. And this isn't a thorn or a dig against ChatGPT. It's every business. Google shows ads because it costs a lot of money. You got to figure out how to monetize. Right. There's nothing wrong with it. If people have an issue, then use another platform. Oh, wait, you like the platform because it's actually good. The ad doesn't degrade the quality much at all. Like, just to be realistic, you can ignore them. The organic results are perfectly fine.
Makes sense. All right, I want to